Go Bucks. They sucked last week, but maybe they'll have better luck. All right. So this one is it possible to train your dog not enough? If you watched the last video, is it possible to train your dog too much? The theme of that one, I kind of put it all encompassing of puppies and adult dogs. With this one, is it possible to train your dog not enough? I cannot do. It's just not possible. So bear with me on this one. And is it possible to not train your dog enough? Obviously, duh. Yes, it's totally possible. Okay? Just because of all the dogs that have behavior issues that end up in shelters and things like that. Clearly, no one put any kind of obedience or structure into the dog's life, and that's why they pretty much got rid of them. I highly doubt most people get rid of a good dog that has been with them for a long time, unless something outside of, something outside circumstances. But for the most part, most people get rid of dogs because of behavior issues, and they don't put the time in to do it. So is it possible to train your dog not enough? Yes. Now, does that mean you have to use, like I said, the rule of thumb, couple of minutes, 5 minutes, twice a day? Do you have to do that every single time with your dog? No. Here's why I can't put puppies and adult dogs into the same bracket in this one. Because of the training age. If you got a puppy, they're brand new, clean slate. There's nothing you can do about it. Their brains haven't developed. They haven't learned. They don't have the capability to learn just like an adult dog. But they just don't have the years and the experience of training. When you have an adult dog who's done this for years, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus 9 years, they have more training age and experience under their belt than the puppy. I think I have made this analogy before. I can't tell you which video, so you can look through them all, figure this one out. But just like in golf, I don't have to put in as much time in order to get back to a skill level that I once was, because I have a shit ton of swings and practice rounds and reps underneath my belt. So am I at a level that I once was when I was, hitting balls and playing, 3-4 times a week right now? No, fuck no. Although I did shoot 2 under, a month ago, and I haven't practiced. I just got a hot hand, so quick flex there. But could I do that regularly? Absolutely not. Not without practicing, but I wouldn't need as much practice in order to get some of the cobwebs off and dust off to get back to where I was. That is not the same thing as starting from scratch. When you're starting from scratch, i.e. the puppy, you're going to have to put in the time and the reps in order to build up their skill level. Because again, let me take that back. Yes, you're going to have to put in the time and the work and the reps to get their skill level up. However, when it's a clean slate, it is much, much easier to do than someone who has the opposite of nothing but bad habits. So, for instance, if you got, adoptive dog from a shelter, or, someone who couldn't have it and you bought it from someone, or a friend and you adopted it, anything like that. In that case, if this dog has bad habits, or even if they are trained, I would still treat them as if it was a blank canvas. Meaning I would go back to basics and build them up to make sure they are totally in sync with me and not the other person. But with a puppy, you're literally having to build that duration up. So that one is, again, when it's a puppy, just like a new beginner, I will go ahead and floor it with the training, because they're going to be amped up. They're going to be fast. They're going to be food driven. It's like you in your prime and, end of high school, going into college, where you can drink a bottle of Jack Daniels, go work out and run through a wall and do it again and repeat. Okay, because you have that youth and all of that maturity and hormones flowing, that you can pretty much get away with a lot of stuff that you cannot do with an older dog. That's the physical part, but you got to think about the mental part as well. So you also have to think about the duration of which you're training your dog and the mental capacity. So are they starting to lose interest? Are they starting to lose focus? Anything like that. Those are telltale signs you got to probably have to slow down a little bit. But on the flip side, is it possible to train them not enough? Older dogs, you don't actually, if they're good and you've had them for a while and you've put a lot of work into them before, you do not have to train them as long as, you know, a brand new puppy. Only if they are rock solid on everything else and you're just at maintenance at that. But just like any dog, there's always something you can work on. There's shit I can work on with Ace for sure. And even though I only do a couple of minutes with him, I do probably less with him than I do Ava, just because I also know the temperament. You have to know the temperament of your dog. The genetics do come into play. There's nothing you can do to work around that. You know, you are handcuffed to certain limitations. Genetics is one. As much as I would love, you know, to look like fucking Brad Pitt or someone else, fortunately, I'm not, because I am handcuffed to certain genetics. You know, I wish I could bench 300 pounds. Unfortunately, I couldn't, because I'm handcuffed to my genetics. Doesn't matter how much or how little, you know, I lift. It comes down to a certain genetic limitation. Same thing with your dog. So with Ace's genetics, less is a lot more. And that does not mean it's bad. It goes back to what I said before, is the quality is going to have to be very, very high. If I tried doing the quantity very high, quality is going to come down. That's it. It just does not matter. And that's just because of years and experience of playing with him and understanding the dog. Ava, I put the quality very high, obviously, because I'm trying to compete her. But then late, I went into a little funk, and then I try to get her quantity up. So I tried doing both, but eventually one came down, and I just noticed the ROI, the return on that investment, didn't really pan out like I wanted to. So I had to bring one of those down. One of those are going to come down, either the quality or the quantity. And obviously I'm very, you know, I pride myself on the quality. So the quantity ended up coming down, and just understanding that, hey, I can only get her to do so much, just like anyone. Even though she's able to run around ferociously, doesn't mean she's still capable of learning. Because you got to remember, the dog's brain can only retain so much. It's kind of like, if you put me in fucking advanced calculus, you may have got my attention for 5 minutes before I say this is bananas and my head blows up, kind of like, you know, somewhere on Raiders of the Lost Ark or something like that. So you have to train your dog enough and understand what kind of category your dog falls into. Are they young? Are they a working dog, full of energy, high drive? Are they young, but not really high drive, not really working, more of a old soul and just relaxing? But again, when they're younger, you can get away with a little bit more on the physical, but you got to rein that in a little bit. If they're older and they're on maintenance level, yeah, you can get away with just doing a minute and a half, just making sure things are sharp and be done, because they've put all that training time in before. They're not going to need it as much. But the thing is it too much or too little? If it's too little, you got to look at the return on your investment. You look at your ROI. Is your dog behaving like you want? Are they getting it? Are they getting what you're trying to teach them? If they are, and they're always doing it only one time, and you're celebrating like a mofo, yes, that's right. But eventually you're going to have to build up some of that volume, you know, do it again and again, not just in another session, but try doing it more in the same session. So again, I'm going to put a kind of a weightlifter's mentality on this. Rather than waiting to doing it on another workout day, try getting another set in during the session you're in that day. So rather than saying, yeah, whatever it was, you know, they behaved extremely well when another dog walked by. You know, they sat, they looked at me, they didn't bark, they didn't get reactive. But if you've done singles on multiple sessions, try getting multiple in one training session rather than multiple days. So do it again. So, hey, dog walked by, boom, you sat, try getting up close to him again, sat, or you found another person walking your dog, sat, and no reactivity, boom. Now you're training up that volume within the single session rather than over multiple days. And that's what eventually you're going to have to do, because look at your return. Are they getting it? Yes, but are they getting it fast enough, or should they be getting it by now? Are those questions, and only those questions can you answer? And you have to be the judge of that. I would typically go with, if you're asking me, in my humble opinion, if they've done 1, 2, 3 days of one particular piece that you want one single time, by the next time, I would add 2 of those things that you're trying to do in a single session. So you got to start thinking about how you actually structure your training, which I made a video on. So I'll go ahead and tag that in this as well. So again, is it possible to train your dog too little? Yes, it might just take, and if you're doing it, single time over and over, it's just going to take a lot of days and a lot of time to get your dog to where it's kind of foolproof, rather than if you laid the groundwork and then you started adding multiples of that piece. Like say you want to do, a focus heel over and over, adding a couple of those throughout your session, rather than just doing one focus heel. And if you're doing something like a focus heel, which is very strenuous mentally, if they did an awesome job first day or two, you just did it one time and you're celebrating, because you're laying that groundwork, I'll go ahead and do multiple, probably 2, then 3, work your way up within a single session. Okay. But just like before, I'm not getting into burnout. You can watch the other video if you want to see that one. But this way you can just start building up that training volume a lot quicker and a lot faster, because if you go too slow, it's just going to take a long time. And if you're focusing on the quality, but the volume isn't there, the quantity isn't there, eventually you're going to have to do it both. And then that's where you just have to focus on those 2 things. And then that's when you just start reading your dog before they get to a certain point. They get too exhausted, they land on a high note, and you're celebrating, you're giving them the jackpot and things like that. Okay. So hopefully this helps. If you got any questions, leave them in the comment section. Other than that, please like, subscribe, and all those things, so I can start buying, Aston Martins and looking like James Bond, or even Iron Man, since I got an Iron Man shirt on today. All right. Good luck. Talk to you next time. Done.